The Broken Realms Elara's Destiny book reading teaser before we start. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. The town of Marowak was a quiet place, tucked between the silver-blue waters of the coast and the dark tangle of woods that no one liked to mention after sundown. Fishermen cast their nets at dawn, their boats rocking gently on the tide, while traders haggled over the price of wool, meat and llamas in the market square. Life was safe here, predictable even, as though nothing strange could ever breach the rhythm of nets, hooves and laughter. But the trees, standing thick and tall at the town's border, whispered a different story. They said creatures lived in those woods, things with eyes too many, or none at all. The old men swore they heard howling that wasn't wolf nor fox, and children dared each other to stand at the edge of the tree line until the hairs rose on their arms. Most townsfolk kept their distance, clutching the safety of lantern light. Most, but not all. For in a pasture on the northern edge of Marowak lived a girl with hair the color of violets in spring, cropped short so it wouldn't catch on brambles or llama fur. Her name was Elara, and she had no patience for whispered warnings or tales told to frighten. When she wasn't tending to her herd of stubborn, long-necked creatures, she wandered off into the woods with a walking stick and a grin, convinced that the only monsters out there were made of shadows and imagination. Elara pushed through a tangle of underbrush, her boots snapping twigs beneath her feet. She had wandered farther than usual, the forest around her thickening into an eerie silence. No birdsong, no rustling of small creatures, just the sound of her own breath. She was about to turn back when a low muttering reached her ears. It wasn't the wind. From the gloom stepped 4 hunched figures. Their skin was sickly green, their ears pointed like knives, and each clutched a short sword pitted with rust. Goblins. Elara froze, her heart hammering. She had heard the old stories, but never had she believed them. They snarled and hissed in their guttural tongue, eyes flashing with hunger and malice. One jabbed its sword toward her, and then with a shriek they charged. Elara stumbled back, fumbling for a rock or stick, anything to defend herself. Just as the first goblin raised its blade, light burst through the shadows. A voice deep, commanding, older than the trees, echoed through the glade. Fire roared from nowhere, scattering the goblins like frightened rats. In the blaze stood a man wrapped in a weathered cloak, his beard long and silver, his staff glowing with runes. The goblins screeched in pain as the wizard swept his staff, a storm of crackling energy striking them down. Within heartbeats, the creatures lay smoldering, fleeing back into the forest's depths with curses on their lips. Elara stared wide-eyed, words failing her. The wizard's gaze fell on her, sharp yet kind, as though he had been expecting this moment. Before she could speak, a familiar voice pierced the clearing. Elara, her grandfather's call. Urgent. Angry. The wizard lifted his staff, and in the blink of an eye, the light faded. He was gone, as if he had never been. Elara turned towards the sound of her name and found her grandfather at the edge of the woods, lantern in hand, his brow furrowed deep with worry. She ran to him, the story spilling from her lips in a rush. The goblins, the wizard, the fire. Her grandfather's face grew dark, not with disbelief, but with anger. "How many times must I tell you?" he scolded, his voice trembling. "Never, never go into these woods. They are not safe, not for you, not for anyone." Elara lowered her head, though her mind still burned with the image of the wizard. He had been a story until now. Back at the farmhouse, the lantern light flickered against the walls, throwing long shadows across the wooden beams. Elara sat by the hearth, still shaken, her hands wrapped tight around a mug of steaming milk her grandmother had pressed into her palms. She couldn't stop replaying it. The glint of rusty blades, the fire that had torn through the dark, the wizard's eyes that seemed to see straight into her. Her grandfather paced the kitchen, boots heavy on the floorboards. "It's worse than I thought," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "The creatures are growing bold again. And the wizard, if he's shown himself..." Grandma set a pot back on the stove with a clatter. "You think she saw him?" She said as much. His voice dropped, though the walls carried it clearly enough for Elara to hear from the next room. "And if that is true, then it will not be long before the rest comes to light. She must not know, not yet." Elara's heart skipped. Not know what? She leaned closer, ear nearly pressed to the doorframe. Don't you think she deserves to? Grandma's tone was firm but quiet, like a knife wrapped in cloth. She's growing, she's brave, just like him. Grandpa slammed his hand on the table. No, if she learns the truth now, she will go looking for him. And that path, he fell silent, as though the words were too heavy to speak aloud. Then softer, almost breaking, he added, her father is not dead. But for her sake, for all our sakes, she must believe he is. The room spun around Elara as the words sank in. Her father, alive, somewhere out there in the dark beyond the woods. She clutched the mug tighter, a storm rising inside her. They had kept this from her. They had lied. And now, no matter what her grandfather said, she knew she could never stop searching. Elara couldn't hold it in any longer. She shoved open the door to the kitchen, her eyes blazing. You lied to me, she said, voice trembling. You both lied. My father, he's alive, isn't he? Her grandfather froze. For a long moment, silence hung in the room, broken only by the faint whistle of the kettle. Finally, with a weary sigh, he sank into his chair, his shoulders heavy with years. I swore to him I would never tell you, he murmured, his voice lined with regret. But you've grown too much like him, too stubborn, too brave, to keep it from you any longer. Elara's chest tightened. Then tell me everything. Her grandfather's gaze met hers, steady and sorrowful. Your father was not just a man. He was one of the greatest warlocks this land has ever seen. Beyond the woods lies a world far older and far more dangerous than this town. Warlocks there can bend the very elements, fire, water, earth, and air. Some can heal with a touch, others can kill with a thought. And your father, he was one of the few who learned to master them all. Elara's breath caught in her throat. But it is not safe beyond the woods, he warned, his hand trembling slightly as he reached across the table. That world is at war with itself. Powers clash, kingdoms crumble. I never wanted you to be part of it. I wanted you safe here, with your llamas, your laughter, your childhood. He swallowed hard, eyes glistening. But this is your destiny. You must go find him. You must. Her grandmother turned away, wiping her eyes with her apron. That very night, her grandfather helped her prepare. Into a leather satchel, he packed bread, dried fish, and cheese. He placed a small, sturdy sword into her hands, dull at first glance, but steady, dependable, with runes faintly scratched into the hilt. Elara chose her favorite llama, a chestnut-brown creature named Bramble, to pull her little caravan. It was a funny thing, painted in peeling red, with a crooked chimney jutting from the roof and a small bedroll tucked inside. Home, but on wheels. As dawn crept into the sky, painting the town in pale gold, Elara stood ready at the edge of the woods. Her grandfather embraced her, his voice low and firm in her ear. Promise me, Elara. Promise you will return. She pulled back, eyes shining with determination. I will, Grandpa. And I won't come back alone. I will return with my father. And with that, she tugged Bramble's reins, and the caravan creaked forward into the shadowed trees. The woods seemed darker than ever, but for the first time, Elara felt the pull of destiny leading her on.